Hello, everybody. Welcome to the year-end edition of POST Puroresu. I'm John Pollock. WH Park is joining me. And the next time, WH, that you and I are on a show together, it will be in the flesh together in Japan.
This is true. We'll be like in the same hotel room maybe, and hopefully we won't be disturbing our neighbors.
Oh, I can be very loud, so I will try and reduce my indoor volume. We'll see how things are going after hours and hours of wrestling that we'll be consuming on a near daily basis while we're over there. So, what's kind of your vibe? Just a couple weeks out from just so many people coming to Japan, and man, just a plethora of shows, and a lot of them just look stacked talent-wise.
I'm really into the TV show The Watchmen, John. Maybe you've heard about my secret DM group with Brandon and Neil. Neil's in there.
Yeah, this was not such a secret group after it was revealed on our show by Neil.
Yeah, we talk about Watchmen
Brandon,
on HBO, and it's a great show. The last episode's coming up this coming Monday for me, like because of the time difference. But I'm excited. I'm gonna watch the whole thing again. Like, just that's how much I love this show.
Well, I'm glad that the show has connected on such a big level. I have not checked out any of the Watchmen, so maybe that will be one that eventually I get around to.
I do recommend you read the comic book first. It kind of helps.
That's a lot of work.
Give more depth. It's not necessary, but it gives you more depth. If you read the comic first, and then you'll understand a lot of the kind of the characters that are happening in this series, because it's a sequel of sorts to the comic book. So,
well, coming up on today's show, we're going to be doing an annual tradition. It's going to be WH Park's year-end picks. We have a number of categories that WH will go through, and we will see what his selections are for the best of 2019. But we'll also take a look at the full Tokyo Dome card lineups, some of the other events that are happening during that first week of January, and some of the shows we're going to be hitting up, Stardom, All Japan, Noah. It's going to be a packed week. But I wanted to start off because the Wrestling Observer newsletter last week came out with its Hall of Fame issue, and I did want to circle back and get some of your reaction to the class of 2019 WH. In total, 10 people going in, including Los Misioneros de la Muerte on the Mexican ballot, Ultimo Guerrero, Gedo, Villano Tres, Dr. Wagner Jr., Jim Crockett Sr., Bearcat Wright, and then there was the historical figure Paul Pons from France. But first of all, anyone that you voted for that went through this year?
No, because I would have voted for like Shima and Jun Akiyama, and they got denied, John. I was really disappointed. At the very least,
I want to make this one clear, because Jun Akiyama, I believe, missed by 2 votes. And I know everyone is maybe like giving an eye to me. I voted for Jun Akiyama, so I cannot be held responsible for the 2 votes that he was shy getting in this year. I finally got over the hump. I voted for Jun Akiyama, and I did vote for Shima as well. So neither went in.
Well, maybe next year, but other than that, like, I'm fully on board with like people like, Jim Crockett Sr. And I'm, as much as I bang on him, I do think Gedo deserves to be in as a booker, because he has like shepherded this kind of, this golden age for New Japan Pro Wrestling, this renaissance, if you will, after a really dark time in the company's history in the early 2000s. So definitely, I think his influence on the company is still being felt, obviously, but I think years down the line, you're going to look at this period, the Gedo era of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and just think of it as like, my God, how influential it was, not just in Japan, but all across the world.
Yes, I think that's definitely going to be a lasting legacy of this period, is just how much lessons were learned from New Japan, copied elsewhere, and just they right down to the creation of stars, that at its core, that's what this industry still lives and dies on for the most part. And I mean, who has made more stars in this last decade than Gedo at this point? Alongside Gedo as well at the onset of the booking period between these two.
You could even argue that like things like, All Elite Wrestling might not have formed as it did without like the influence of his booking of people like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Where is Kenny Omega these days if he had not made that jump to New Japan at that time? Where is several of those members had, Nakamura not left? I mean, you can play all these what ifs, but it's certainly, I think the trickle down effect, just the ripple in the industry that has come from that New Japan period, I would say from 2014 to 17, has just, it's enormous.
Yeah, I do want to make a note of saying how happy I am that Dr. Wagner Jr. is in the Hall of Fame now, because I am such a huge fan. His work in New Japan Pro Wrestling in the late 90s, early 2000s, excellent stuff. I followed a bit of his stuff in Mexico, but for me, he is one of those guys that once I saw him in New Japan Pro Wrestling, I was like, who is this guy? And he's one of those wrestlers from Mexico that really took to Japanese wrestling really well. He started off in Lucha Libre, and then he moved over into New Japan Strong Style in the junior heavyweight division of the time, and he was just mixing it up so well with people like Koji Kanemoto, El Samurai, Liger, Otani, Taikawa, even people like Kendo Kashin, whom I'm not a huge fan of, but he had some good interactions with that guy. Even just an absolute immense talent that I had the privilege of seeing. Not live. I did see him live though once, John, with his son at a Stardom show, believe it or not, because he has this relationship with Rossi Ogawa, who I think is a big fan of his, and he's done some involvement with Stardom back when Io Shirai was still in the company. So that was really cool to see him in that capacity. This is without the mask, obviously, as well. But just absolutely over the moon that Dr. Wagner Jr. is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I was really happy to see so many candidates on the Mexico ballot, which is the deepest of all the categories, get in this year. So I think that frees up a lot of votes moving forward. I've always felt Ultimo Guerrero and Viano were Hall of Famers, so nice to see them go in this year. In terms of Japanese candidates, the ones beyond Jun Akiyama, who just missed, he had 59%, and it's 60 to get in. Guess not really a Japanese candidate, but Kenny Omega with 53%, as I'm just looking at the stats here. And then Kota Ibushi made a big improvement, going from 16% last year up to 42%. I would say that Ibushi, I think ultimately he will be in. Tetsuya Naito, 36%. I guess he's one that I think this next year is going to be pivotal. If he ends up coming out of the domes as the double champion, everything's built around him in 2020, business is solid, that's probably going to be enough to put Naito in. But conversely, it could go a different way for Naito. I don't think he's a guarantee to go in. No,
he's not. But I do think if 2020, he's the champion. And I think the thing that's pivotal for him more than becoming the champion and having a run with that belt is if he's able to make stars with his title reign. If you program, say, Sonata against him, and that elevates Sonata to another level. If he's programmed against, Ibushi, and he takes Ibushi to another level, which I can see that happening, then I think Naito's a shoo-in. If he's just having, kind of run-of-the-mill title defenses against unaspiring challengers, if he's just fighting Tanahashi and Okada again, and he's not taking these younger guys, the guys underneath him, and making them stars, and I kind of am worried about it. It's like Okada's an easy shoo-in for me. If I was to vote and Okada's on the ballot, then yeah, definitely, because he's not only had, a huge positive effect on New Japan financially, but he's made people bigger stars than they were before.
And as we look ahead to next year, the ones that are being added, this is maybe the most interesting group of guys that are being added to the ballot next year. I just want your yes, no. And I think I can guess all of them here of what you are going to say. Ole Anderson.
Yes.
Kevin Nash.
No.
Scott Hall.
No.
Brian Pillman.
That's a tough one. I like Brian Pillman, but no.
I don't think Pillman gets in. Joe Higuchi. That's an interesting one.
Yes.
And Takaki Kadani.
Yes. I think so. He should get in because he's a large part of why New Japan is as successful as it is right now.
Yeah, that one is interesting. The following year, Kazuchika Okada gets on the ballot. Will Okada top Kenta Kobashi was 98%, if I can think, back to 2002 when he goes in. Does Okada top 98% in terms of votes he gets when he gets on the ballot?
Ooh, that's a good question, John. I would say that he's going to go over 75%, but 98, I don't know. Kobashi was just like, the man was a fucking legend, by the time he was voted into the Hall of Fame, John. So
I think Okada has to be in. I think he has to be in. I think the only people that are not going to vote on him are the people that don't like to vote for people in the midst of their runs. But to me, there's no question about Okada. He will absolutely be a vote for me.
Yeah, if I had a ballot, I would totally vote for that dude.
Okay, well, maybe the bigger, we have to get WH Park on the voting list for 2020. Is that, can we start this grassroots campaign? Cause you should absolutely be voting.
Apparently you think I should be on it. And apparently Will Cooling also thinks I should be getting a ballot, because like talking to him, recently, he was like, oh, I talked to Dave. I said you should get a vote. And I don't know if Dave even knows who I am, but it doesn't matter. Like, I like talking about these things with people like you and Will and Jamesy and like Benno and everything it's that's fine in of itself for me, John. So if I get one, that'd be awesome. But if I don't, I'm okay.
There was, I was first invited to vote one year, and I think I voted for like 2 or 3 years, and then one year came and I did not receive a ballot. So I thought like, oh, did I slip? Am I like off the list? And then the following year I got a ballot back. So there was a 1 year blip for me.
Well, that might have just Dave forgot something. The man is a very busy person, so
he is a very busy man. But anyway, that is the Observer Hall of Fame class for 2019. And also, I'm just scanning through here. Any other notable candidates? Kojima and Tenzan, 17%. We've talked about kind of the cases for many of these people. A lot. Tomohiro Ishii, 24%. I would say those levels. I don't see them. Shima as well, like was in the low 20s, 26% actually. I don't see any of those candidates going in, including Ishii. If Ishii's at 24% right now, I don't know if that's necessarily going to grow unless there is, a groundswell of support for Ishii or something that changes. But at 45 years old now, I don't know if like his resume is his in-ring, and I don't think he can make a stronger argument than that. That is the case to be made, and 24% believe he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but the thing with Ishii is like he's in a company where like the in-ring among so many people in that company is just as amazing. You know what I mean? And like they have better credentials in terms of being like, box office draws and like champions and like people and star makers. Like Ishii is an amazing worker. He is. But like, this has happened in the back end of his career. Like if you go, I don't know, earlier than 2010, there's nothing remarkable about Tomohiro Ishii. There really isn't.
Yeah. And I think that's a part of the Hall of Fame that, it's something I struggle with too, because I look at, should I be voting on people that I did not live through, because you really do have to assess the entirety of the career and not just cherry pick the good. And, that's a point that's been raised by Dave as well. And I agree with it that you can't just, essentially cut out all the bad and just focus on the good of one candidate. And you have to look at that entire career. Was Tomohiro Ishii, would anyone be talking about this guy as a candidate a decade ago? Not a chance. No.
And like getting back to one name you mentioned, Kojima, I would vote in for on his own, not in the tag team, because I think as someone who was wrestling in All Japan after the split with Misawa to form Noah, and then he came in with Keiji Muto, and he became one of the top guys in the company. He was multiple time Triple Crown champion. He helped keep that company alive, John. And like
he had that run during the 2010s, and we were in the midst of that. I think that he's, he did his biggest stuff when it was like a fraction of the worldwide audience was paying attention to New Japan. I think that works against him.
Oh yeah, and like he had awesome matches when he returned to New Japan as well. I mean, I say he was like someone who kind of helped establish Tanahashi to another level. Like Tanahashi was like a top star, but he became a megastar thanks in part to people like, Satoshi Kojima. So he's definitely on his own, like an easy vote for me if I had a vote. So,
well, he was the headliner at the Tokyo Dome in 2011 with Tanahashi. We now segue over to 2020, the back-to-back Dome nights. And as we approach this, WH, do you feel like this? It seems that tickets are going very well for both nights. Do you see this being something that they try again, or do you think this is going to be the only time they do this experiment of back-to-back Tokyo Dome nights?
I think it really depends on when does January 4th fall under, like, on the calendar. Like, we have the benefit of it being on a Saturday, and so January 5th is Sunday, so it's easy for people to still be on holiday in Japan at the time. Like most people at my company are going back to work on the 6th. I'm not. I took another week off to, like, hang out with you guys, and if that wasn't the case, I would probably just go back home as well. Like, if it's on a Monday and people are going back to work on the 5th, no, they're not. They'd be kind of foolish to do that, John, because
which is what it falls on next year, a Monday and Tuesday.
Well, then I don't think that's happening. Then, we'll find out, because they're going to announce everything at the Wrestle Kingdom shows this year. They're going to announce all the big shows that they're going to have throughout the year. So we'll find out, like, if they're going to do it again. I don't think it can sustain itself. I really don't, John.
So first night, let's just run through the card here. The opener on the first night will be Jushin Thunder Liger, Tatsumi Fujinami, Great Sasuke, and Tiger Mask with El Samurai in their corner, taking on Naoki Sano, Shinjiro Otani, Tatsuhito Takaiwa, and Ryusuke Taguchi with Kuniaki Kobayashi, who was Liger's first Dome opponent in 1989, in their corner. So do you like this placement, starting things off with the 8-man?
Sure. I guess I have a lot of feelings about the way his retirement tour has been handled, John, since the time they've announced it till, like, his last match on the 5th, that we'll talk about when we get to it. But I am really overall been disappointed with the way they've handled his retirement. Like, you look at the what was it, the San Diego show, I guess, that I covered with Davis Storm, and his last American match was in a tag, and he was on the losing end of that, and I'm just like, why did you book that in the first place? Why can't you couldn't have him do a singles? And here's the thing, I'm really shocked at the lack of singles matches for this man in his retirement tour.
Yeah, and I wonder if that is him not thinking he can pull it off. But I thought to me, it's like the retirement tour really peaked with Minoru Suzuki at King of Pro Wrestling. I thought that was fantastic. And it just seems that the curious booking was, well, if they're doing Suzuki here, they've got to have something enormous planned for the retirement, because this could totally be his send-off with Minoru Suzuki, and that should have been the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, I mean, like, he talked about he wanted a singles match on the 5th, and then they gave him this tag match, which I'm really perplexed about. But we'll talk about that when we get to the 5th.
We'll get to that. So a bunch of multi-mans on the undercard. Next up is Sonata, Evil, Shingo Takagi, and Bushi against Zack Sabre Jr., Minoru Suzuki, Taichi, and El Desperado in the quest of how much talent can we get into one 8-man tag here that I imagine is going to get about 10 minutes.
Why isn't Shingo Takagi in a singles match on any of these nights, John?
Shingo is, every year this happens where there's someone that, unfortunately, it's a numbers game. Shingo is certainly in that boat this year. I was disappointed too. I thought we were really building to something with Minoru Suzuki, and sure, you can get to that at New Beginning, but yeah, that was one that, I mean, they've been heavily promoting that one. Yeah,
it just boggles me. They have 2 nights, and, like, some of these matches that they've announced and some of the glaring omissions are really, like, confusing me, to be quite honest with you. But we'll get to those as we get to them, I suppose.
Our next 8-man tag, Kenta, Bad Luck Fale, Yujiro, and Chase Owens against Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, and Yoshihashi. Nothing really jumps out at me here. This is largely setting up Kenta and Goto for the next night, and whatever involvement Ishii has here. I mean, it's a kind of underwhelming role for him.
John, this is the piss break match.
Well, it's only the 3rd match in. I mean, what state is your bladder going to be in just 3 matches in?
John, you don't know what the pre-drinking before we're going to go into the dome. You're not aware of what happens in Tokyo Dome City, just outside the Tokyo Dome before the doors open. Is like there's a lot of fans out and about just drinking. Not that I condone that or condemn it or anything. That's just what it is. Like for a lot of people, this is the piss break match, the third match in. Once you see Bad Luck Fale on a major card, John, that's a piss break match.
I am really looking forward to being seated next to WH Park to watch this. I mean, that to me is part of the fun. You might be one of my favorite people to watch a wrestling show with.
Well, we had all that fun at the WXW shows, John, so back in August. So yeah.
That's true. We've done some Smash Wrestling shows together.
I have said to our mutual acquaintance, Mark Ramondi, who's going to be joining us for the Stardom show, like I asked him if he's ever sat next to you at a show. He says he doesn't think so. And he's asked me why. And I said, well, the puns do not stop when you sit next to John Pollock at a live wrestling show.
Well, I will, I don't know what I'm going to be doing actually when I'm in my seat. Like, I feel I am going to have to like take some notes at some points as well, because we do have to talk about all this afterwards, but we're going to find out what it's like, inside the Tokyo Dome. I fully believe that the experience of being in the Tokyo Dome, I feel by like match 5, I'll have it out of my system.
Oh, probably. Yeah. I don't think you'll feel that way when we're in Korakuen Hall.
No, to be honest, like, yes, it's cool to watch a show for the first time at the Tokyo Dome, but I am way more interested in going to Korakuen Hall than I am the Tokyo Dome itself.
And we've talked about the match we're going to get for that show, John. But anyways.
Next up, Guerrillas of Destiny against Juice Robinson and David Finlay, who just won the World Tag League. I was really glad you and I kind of called these two as like the underdogs that we'd both like to see end up winning the tag league. This was at the start of it. I was happy to see they went with this because my body cannot process another Guerrillas of Destiny versus Evil and Sonata tag. Not at this juncture in my life.
Oh yeah, the Finn Juice winning the tag league. I love that match. I was on the edge of my seat during that whole thing with them against Evil and Sonata, and I loved like the last 5 minutes, and just David Finlay, you and I have both been high on for a long, long time. That he
was
got
a breakout performance for him in that final.
He was made a star in that, and I just hope they carry the momentum of that match into this. And I predict Finn Juice winning the tag team titles, and maybe Juice Robinson. People talk about Naito 2 belts up on Twitter. Maybe we need the hashtag Finn 2 belts as well. Juice 2 belts.
Yeah, because Juice will be challenging the winner of the U.S. title, which is our next match, a Texas death match in Japan between Lance Archer and Jon Moxley. I think this is really going to work for the crowd. I think they're going to be into it. Moxley's had a tremendous rebound year getting out of WWE this past year, and Lance Archer has been one of, if not the most improved guys this year. So I think this is really going to click.
Oh yeah, I love the angle at the finals of the World Tag League, like when he came out to challenge Archer, and then he also DDT'd Minoru Suzuki. So I'm kind of hoping maybe they're gonna set something up for the 5th. Like I don't know if Moxley's doing 2 nights. I imagine he's there for New Year's Dash as well. So maybe we're gonna get something with him on the 5th. That'll be really cool as well. But yeah, like maybe I can see Archer, like retaining the belt because like of Moxley's, contract with AEW precludes him from working in the United States for New Japan. So if you're the U.S. champion, I imagine you should be able to defend the U.S. title in the United States, John.
That there should be some prerequisites, I guess, for holding a championship. Will Ospreay, Hiromu Takahashi. This one should be outstanding and could be the match of the show. Could be.
Oh yeah, like we'll find out. Like the New Japan has set up some matches for Hiromu to work the road to the Wrestle Kingdom, at Korakuen Hall. So he won't have necessarily ring rust by the time he gets to the show. So I'm excited about this match. This is probably my second most anticipated match for the 4th, and I'm just so happy Hiromu Takahashi is back, and I think him and Ospreay are just going to kill it in the ring, and hopefully not each other, but just the match itself.
Jay White, Tetsuya Naito for the Intercontinental Championship in our first title match to set up the double title match the next night. I think everyone's expecting Naito to win this. I think that it's always dangerous to assume anything with Naito, especially when it's Jay White on the opposite side. So I will say of these four, if it's me, I'm going with Okada and Naito the next night, but I can see them going with literally any pairing here.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my thoughts about Naito. Naito's gonna beat Jay White. He's gonna win the IC title. He's gonna go to the 5th challenge Okada. And we'll talk about that match, I guess. But you know, the good thing about the long entrance ramp, John, at the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom is like during Jay White's entrance, not during the match, but during the entrance, that's the other piss break of the night for me.
Well, Naito, this could be like everything seems geared around Naito for these two nights. Okada and Kota Ibushi, this is going to be phenomenal. I'm expecting a really long war between these two, and I see Okada retaining.
Yeah, I thought the angle they did where Ibushi just fucking beamed Okada with that briefcase.
Man.
Just him just beat the shit out of him. Like, he was like stiffing Okada in that post match. And I just thought that one segment did so much more for the build to this Tokyo Dome, match than anything they've done in the months before.
I think that this one has to go long. I think this should be a total war between these two, and Okada winning, and then you have the story the next night that if Naito wins, presuming Naito goes to the next night, that, he gets the weakened version of Okada. So that leaves you with a rematch way down the road. You have the natural program with Ibushi can beat Jay White the next night, and you have the Naito Ibushi program you can reset. So that sets up a lot of opponents already for Naito out of the gate.
Can I just say something about the structure of this card, John? Like, the first 4 matches, are I think are going to be really short, Like, I think all the 8-man tags, the first 3 matches are going to be less than maybe 15 minutes, maybe 10 to 12 minutes, maybe. I think the IWGP Tag Team Championship match is going to be around maybe 10 to 15. And then, cause I think Archer and Moxley are going to go a bit long. Ospreay Hiromu, probably 15 minutes minimum. And then I do think Jay White and Naito is going to go about 20. And Okada and Ibushi, I don't know how long they're going to go. It's 60 minutes.
I think they'll tease an hour. I think they will tease an hour.
We're going to be there for a while. So that piss break at the beginning of Jay White's entrance, John, is a good idea.
That might be the best structured piss break of the night is during that entrance, because I'm expecting a very long main event. Do you see an argument the other way around that this could be, that you could put the title on Ibushi here, whether it's keeping it for one night or Ibushi coming out of this 2-night Dome event?
Well, you got to think about the way Gedo books. He books long-term stories. He books stories that pay off of things that happened before. Look at Okada Tanahashi. Remember the title defense where Tanahashi beat Okada and Okada was crying? That led to the next year, right? Where Okada finally vanquished Tanahashi, and that kind of cemented him as the ace of the company. So I think the whole thing with Naito and Okada, that's the story. That's the match to cement Naito as not just the most popular guy in the company, because he is, but as an ace level star in the company. So it has to be against Okada. If he was a champion and Okada was the challenger, that would be fine as well, because the story is not that Naito is beating Okada to win the world title. It's that he's beating Okada at a Wrestle Kingdom in the main event at the Tokyo Dome. That's the main story. The title is part of it, but it's not the main part.
I agree. I think that this whole story has been centered around Naito getting that win over Okada at the Tokyo Dome. That's what I expect. That's what I assume that we get. And that will take us into January 5th. So let's take a look at that card. That one's going to open up again in the opener is Jushin Liger's retirement match with Naoki Sano against Ryu Lee, the former Dragon Lee, and Hiromu Takahashi. And Yoshiaki Fujiwara will be in the corner of Liger and Sano. I do not like this one opening the show. I think that the best case scenario is this is a super emotional ending, and that's your first match of the night. I don't know about the placement of that.
I don't even like the fact that it's a tag match, John. Honestly, like they should have just done him and Hiromu. Like, and then if Hiromu is expected to take the IWGP Junior title, then you could have done something where he challenges one last time for the title. That would have been, I think, a lot more symbolic and a lot more appropriate. So, people are saying to me, "Oh yeah, I like this match because Naoki Sano, blah blah blah." Listen, I haven't fucking seen Naoki Sano in like the last 10 fucking years, so I don't know what he looks like. He might be still a great grizzled veteran type of guy, but these generational rivals take on another set of generational rivals. I don't see that. Like I just see like some like haphazard booking of Liger on this retirement tour and is continuing on his last night in the ring. It just bothers me, John. I'm not a fan of like the placement. I'm not a fan of the like it being a tag match. Just none of it is sitting well with me.
I don't know if Sano was the best pick. Like I am all for symbolism and story, but there has to be a balance there as well, because you don't want the symbolism and the story doesn't get told if the match falls flat. And I don't feel this will fall flat. I don't think the crowd will let it. But Liger is really, to me, he needs to be the focal point of his side. And the idea of here you have your new generation of rivals that are coming together, like that is obviously what the idea here is, that these two are seen as the disciples of the opponents that they're going to vanquish here together, that have the history together with the injury. But I just think that that's a lot to throw, number one, in the opener. And I think they had understandably so set their expectations pretty high for what Liger's retirement was going to be. And instead of doing this kind of dual passing of the torch to new rivals, I think in a singles capacity, that story is much clearer, and I would have much greater faith in the match itself with simply Liger against either Lee or Hiromu.
I would have done Hiromu because like he's the guy who's like pegged as the next junior heavyweight ace of this company. And what better way to like cement that than by him facing Liger in his retirement? And even if he lost, I don't think that would happen if it was Liger and Hiromu. I think Liger would do everything in his power to make sure that Hiromu would get the win at the end and he would put him over, because that's a theme, like I've been doing Thunderstruck, and one of the themes you see in his career is like Liger's very, like selfless, and like how he makes sure younger guys get the rub off of him and like, become stars. Like I just reviewed a match featuring him and a young Shima, and that was a theme of the match, is like he made Shima a star in that match. And I think he could do the same with the symbolic, passing of the torch one last time to Hiromu Takahashi, who I think, before the injury, he was on that path to becoming like a transcendent star in this company, in that he's not just looked at as a junior heavyweight wrestler, he's looked at as a superstar wrestler, regardless of weight division.
I think overall, I think the Liger retirement will still be one of the highlights of that entire week. I think that the ceremony the next night I imagine they're going to bring tons of stars back for that and pretty much try to recreate one of Ric Flair's many retirements.
We'll see. Yeah.
Not the one where he lost to Hulk Hogan in a cage in '94.
No, they'll bring back Antonio Inoki for that, John.
Then we go on to the junior heavyweight tag title match with El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori defending against Roppongi 3K. This should be outstanding.
Oh, these four guys all just have amazing chemistry with one another. I really like the show match against El Phantasmo in the it was San Diego, wasn't it?
Was it San Jose or San Diego?
It's San Jose, the one I reviewed. I'm sorry, yes. My memory is terrible, but they had awesome chemistry with one another, and then just throw in Yo and Taiji Ishimori, two awesome workers themselves, and yeah, I'm very excited about this match, John.
Zack Sabre Jr. and Sonata. I like this placement, third on the card for the British heavyweight title, and I think that this is a great spot for Sonata on this show. It's not going to be one that everyone's zeroed in on, but man, this could be certainly, I don't want to say a sleeper match. I think everyone's expecting this to be really great, and this should be. I like this pairing on this in this setting for these two.
I like the fact that the British Heavyweight Championship, the top belt for Rev Pro, is defended more in New Japan than it is in Rev Pro, and God bless Zack Sabre Jr. for just, you know, making that basically an IWGP title belt, you know, instead of a Rev Pro belt, even though it says Rev Pro on it. It's basically the IWGP British title, John. But should be a good match. I love both guys. I'm one of those people who doesn't hate Sonata. A lot of my, you know, peers, you know, like, really dislike Sonata, especially in Brit Res. But I'm sorry to tell you guys, Sonata's coming to the UK to save Brit Res. He's coming to England to like revive the scene as the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Champion.
Oh, I was thinking maybe he could come to our home country and just swap out the S for a C, and he could save our country's wrestling scene.
Listen, John, TNA had the chance to do that with him. They just stuck him under a Great Muta gimmick. Once again, showing they have no idea how to use Japanese talent. But that ship has sailed, unfortunately. I think Sonata is pretty happy, you know. Also, like, I think he's been like the victim of like someone taking him to Coffee Time instead of like Tim Hortons or Starbucks. And so that might have soured him on Canada.
Wow. That's a deadly sin. Then we have Juice Robinson challenging for the U.S. title against X. Will that be Jon Moxley or Lance Archer?
My gut feeling is Lance Archer. I think they're very high on Archer. I think Moxley doesn't need the title. I think the story could be, you know, like Juice can either avenge his loss against Moxley, yeah, or he could avenge his loss against Archer. Here's my rationale about, like, I think Archer's gonna win both matches because, like, the guy's become a bigger star in the company due to him being the U.S. champion, and he lives in the United States still, John. So, like, you know, New Japan of America, they got this very, very ambitious schedule, and I think the U.S. title is going to be kind of a mantelpiece belt on these tours, and I think it's better to have the guy who actually lives in the United States, you know, on tour, you know, with the guys coming over for these shows. And like Juice Robinson lives in Japan now, John. So it's a much more difficult prospect for him to get on the plane, go back to the United States, and then come back to Japan, go back to the United States. Whereas Archer might be like, hey, you don't need to do this next Japan tour because we're going to have you, like, you know, work a ton of matches on these two US tours, like back to back in between, you know, like you don't have to come to Japan in between.
Do you feel that they ultimately just sped up plans with Lance Archer, that King of Pro Wrestling, it would have been Juice beating Moxley and then going to Lance Archer after that? Or do you feel like Lance Archer just ultimately got, because of the change of plans, pretty much backdoored his way into this, where it's a giant career break for him?
See, I really think like Juice's like 2020 is going to be in the tag division with David Finlay. I think they're going to win the tag titles, and that's the best thing that can happen to those belts because like it really freshens up that scene. They're a great team. I kind of think it's better for Juice to be kind of in the tag division now rather than be in the U.S. title because it's just boring with him in it. Honestly,
the tag division badly needs some new blood, and Juice and David Finlay represent that.
Like, what's exciting about Juice Robinson being the United States champion? Nothing.
Not at the moment, no. Kenta Hiroki Goto for the never openweight title.
Oh yeah, like listen, like those backstage interviews Kenta's been doing just goes to show you, man, WWE missed the boat on this dude. Like, oh, he can't speak English fluently. Listen, he is one of the highlights, John, of New Japan programming with like all his like, you know, talking to the camera, like saying to Hiroki Goto, calling him hero, like, and saying, you want to be my, you know, are we dating? Are you mad at me? Like all the stuff he was doing with Tomohiro Ishii before. Fucking great. I love it. And I really think Kenta's like found his groove, like working with like the limitations of his body after all the abuse he's put it through over the years. And I think this is going to be a hell of a match because he's in there with a guy who doesn't give a shit, John, because like they're just going to beat the piss out of each other.
I see this being Goto's annual Wrestle Kingdom high point moment, and I see him winning this.
Yeah, me too. And we'll see what kind of involvement Shibata has in this match. I mean, they teased it. They did 2 physical, altercations between Kenta and Shibata. You'd think he was going to be in the match. I'm not against him not being in the match if he's not fully cleared, but you got to think that maybe they're saving that for New Year's Dash or like one of the New Beginning shows.
It's really tough. Like, if he's not cleared, how much do you continue to tease stuff? Because you're dangling this. Like, it's almost at a point where you want people to forget it if you can't deliver the match.
I don't think Gedo's that kind of a booker. Like, that he's going to tease people with, like, especially like something that would mean so much to the fans. Like, if Shibata was able to come back, like, you should never, like, dangle that in front of these people's hearts. Like, you remember when he came back, like, just to show after his injury, he just showed up and said, "I'm not dead." And people in Sumo Hall were crying, John. They were fucking crying. I was one of them. I was crying too. I was like, "Oh my God, he's back." But I knew that he wasn't coming back to wrestle. That's just that he's okay and that he's out of the hospital. That was enough for me. And then, like, this idea that he might come back to wrestle, but if he doesn't, then no, I don't think that Gedo would do that. I really don't.
Then it's going to be the losers of the top 2 matches. So if our predictions are accurate, this would be Jay White versus Kota Ibushi, a rematch from the G1 finals.
I wish they put some stakes on this, John. Like, just the 2 losers face each other. Give them a reason to fight. You know what I mean?
I see the winner probably being your New Beginning challenger. I could see that. So there's something there for the winner.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's something that they announce maybe before the match starts. But I think this should be a really fun match. I'm not the hugest fan of the Switchblade character, but I do think these 2 have good chemistry. I just don't want to see the shenanigans, John. Like, I don't want to see a recreation of the G1 Climax finals from August. That's all.
You were not a fan of some of that, as I recall.
No.
Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Chris Jericho. Kind of interesting how you book this with, Jericho holding AEW's title. Does he lose here to Tanahashi?
I don't think New Japan gives a shit about the AEW title, nor should they. They're not affiliated with that company. In fact, it seems like there's kind of like some distance. It's up to Jericho. Like, I think they pay Jericho his appearance fee and they say, this is what's going to happen in the match. And he says, okay, no problem. Like, I think it's deliberate that he's a different character. He's not Le Champion in any of the promos. He's his Painmaker character. I think for him and for the fans, it's a way of saying, like, listen, that person in AW, the world champion AW, that's not who's fighting Tanahashi here. This is a different version of the character of Chris Jericho. And so if he loses, it's okay because I don't think he's bringing up the belt with him, John.
So what do you see here? This is just a Tanahashi victory?
Yeah, I think they'll have a fun match. I'm not a huge fan of Chris Jericho in New Japan, John. A lot too much brawling. I'm really sick of the brawling in New Japan, and like I don't find it exciting when Chris Jericho's done it. Like, I didn't like the Okada match at Dominion. The Naito match was okay, but maybe Tanahashi can rein him in and they'll have more of an in-ring match. I hope so. I am a big fan of, Jericho in AEW. I love that character and I love what he's been doing there. But yeah, I'm just hoping, please, more of that, less of like the murder clown fucking walk and brawl dude. We'll see. But I do think Tanahashi's going to win this match. I'd be surprised if he lost. I do think maybe for the foreseeable future, maybe that's it for Jericho for a while.
I could see that as well, like at Dominion at the earliest, and it'll be interesting to see, like, is New Japan still something that he's going to continue beyond this? Like the Tanahashi, I mean, they shot that angle all the way back in the spring, so you did have to pay that off, and I'm sure this was kind of earmarked for this show for months and months and months, and what'll happen after this, we'll see. And then the main event, it is going to be the 2 winners from January 4th, and Naito and Okada is what people are expecting. We'll see if that happens. And you're of the belief it will be Tetsuya Naito at the end of both domes holding up both titles.
I believe so, John. I've been wrong many times before, but I'm going to stick with that. And I think this is going to go long. I think this is going to hit the limit as well.
It could be a really, really lengthy match. And yeah, I think this sets up a lot. If you have Naito coming out of this, you have, Ibushi, which is a feud that they can always go back to. And if Ibushi beats Jay White, that's something they can go to. You have Okada that gets the guy who didn't want the double championships suddenly finds himself with 0, and it gives him something to work back towards. And if Tanahashi beats Jericho, he should be in the mix too for one more title chance with Naito as well. And you line up Naito with a lot of all your big names coming out of January 5th. So, I mean, that could be the direction that they go.
Yeah, I just don't want Okada anywhere near that belt for a while. I really think you need to get new people in that mix. So when he gets the belt back, you have all these guys who've been elevated by Naito being the champion. And even if they don't beat him, but he elevates them. So when Okada gets the belt, okay, when I face, wrestler C, who wasn't really on my level, but now he's on a higher level in 2020 or 2021 even, then it's more exciting and it's a more intriguing matchup and people want to pay money to see that. That's what I'm hoping for 2020 with hopefully with Naito as a champion. It's just Okada does something else. I would not be opposed if Okada just went into the tag division himself and worked there, but that's not the way New Japan books their tag division. Unlike say, for example, Pro Wrestling Noah or All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Do you see them keeping the titles kind of merged together for a long period of time? Do you see them down the road separating them again?
I can't see them not having the IC title available as a prop, not a prop, but a device to elevate people and keep them busy. I thought it was a great thing for Jay White to win the belt in the sense it keeps him hot. He's someone that they want to, push continuously, but he can't always, be the champion. If he doesn't have a title, it's kind of hard to keep the focus on him. So having the IC title on him is a great kind of placeholder in ways, and it gives him something to do. It's the same thing when Nakamura held the belt. He wasn't going to be the IWGP champion during Okada's reign or some of Tanahashi's reign. So, but he elevated because he's Nakamura and he has such a stature in the company. He elevated that title where it meant just as much for someone to challenge the IC champion as it did the world champion in some respects.
Yeah, it's funny that at this point where you could see Okada needing to step away from the title picture to allow Naito to have this run, that the IC title would have been a great device to kind of take Okada's attention away from the title and he could run with that title, but that's not an option here.
No, I mean, you could also easily do this idea where Naito gets both belts, but he says, at a press conference or maybe at New Beginning, listen, I got 2 belts, but I don't want to carry both of them. He could just do the Chiquila thing. It's these are heavy. I don't want to carry this one anymore. So as much as I respect it, I'm going to abdicate the IC title, and then they have a tournament for it. I think that would be a nice solution as well.
Yeah, I just think you've built this up for so long, the idea of being a double champion, that I don't think you can just vacate one of them immediately. I do feel they're going to keep these titles together for at least a bit of a period. And that's kind of the new shiny toys that everyone is going for, to become double champion. That now Naito is the only one who can say he has been a double champion. And that's something that eludes everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's a great solution as well.
So that is the lineups for both Tokyo Dome shows. Which night do you see as the stronger of the two?
I kind of go back and forth on this, John, but for me, I like the intrigue of night 2, the 5th. I like not exactly knowing what we're going to get. And yeah. I do think if we get Naito and Okada, it's going to be an epic match. And I think the fans in attendance, if they get Naito Okada and Naito wins, it's going to be a much stronger emotional response from the majority of the fans in that building, as opposed to if Okada beats Ibushi. I don't think there's as much emotional resonance there.
And I want to get to our year-end picks, but just quickly looking at some of the other shows. All Japan on January 3rd, that's going to feature Kento Miyahara and Jake Lee for the Triple Crown title. Noah's got a Korakuen Hall show. They've got several shows going on that week, but the January 4th show that will precede the Tokyo Dome card, Kaito Kiyomiya defending the GHC heavyweight title against Go Shiozaki, Takeshi Sugiura and Masa Kitamiya for the national title. And we have a junior heavyweight title with Hayata and Yoshinari Ogawa, as well as Katsuhiko Nakajima against Michael Elgin. That should be really solid. This is a very, very strong Noah card.
This show's selling really well, John. Like, they took a chance, and my God, it pays off. It's paid off. Like, I think the show we're going to is on the 5th, which is before, the Wrestle Kingdom Day 2. And they're not announcing anything for that show. It's all a secret. So I think we're gonna see some, like, kind of significant things happen to the show that we're gonna attend. But, the January 4th Noah show at Korakuen is running head to head with Wrestle Kingdom. So I thought, that's a bad idea. Who's gonna go to that? But a lot of people are going to that. It's selling really, really well. There's a lot of people.
Wow. So I thought this was the plan was for this to be done by the Tokyo Dome, but they're running against it.
They're running against it, John. And here's the thing. Like, we've talked about this before, this whole idea of, like, you know what? There are New Japan fans and there are Noah fans. There's very little crossover. So a lot of the Noah fans are going to be at, the Korakuen Hall for this big Noah show. And I'm happy that they've announced the card, and it's loaded with title matches and some really intriguing matchups. I think coming out of this, there's going to be a lot of momentum for Noah. At least I hope there is, and that maybe some people who might not be fans of New Japan Pro Wrestling but are fans of wrestling, maybe they'll give Noah a chance while they're in Tokyo.
Yeah, so tons of stuff going on. We'll be going. What are all the shows we're going to? We're going to Stardom. We're going to All Japan on the 3rd. We're going to Noah on the 5th.
Yeah, and then New Year's Dash and 2 Wrestle Kingdom shows. I don't think we have much time to do anything else though, John.
It's a packed week.
So we're getting Kento Miyahara versus Jake Lee for the Triple Crown, John. I'm really happy that we got a Triple Crown title match for your first time in Korakuen Hall.
Yeah, I was expecting that they'd have Miyahara in a big match on the 3rd. So no, that should be excellent. Kento Miyahara is just what a phenomenal year this guy has had, and maybe that's going to segue to one of our categories here from WH as we take a look at the past year. So we've got a number of categories here, and any particular order you want to go in, WH? Do you want me to start at the top of the list that you sent me?
Sure, just you pick the order, John.
Okay, well, let's begin with Wrestler of the Year. WH, your pick for 2019.
So this is, for me, this category means the in-ring performer of the year. The Wrestler of the Year for me is Will Ospreay, just because, I can't think of a single person in Japan who's had as stellar a year as this guy has, with all the tournaments he's been in, just racking up a hell of a resume. He's also had a hell of a tag resume, teaming with Robbie Eagles in the junior tag league. Yeah, easy for me from the beginning of the year with the match against Ibushi at the last Wrestle Kingdom up to, the stuff he's been doing in the United States, the stuff he did with Red. Yeah, it was a fun match, not mind blowing, but still significant. He's kept himself in the news, John, and he's done it with his in-ring work.
And I really appreciated the fact that they gave him the tag league off.
Well, thank God for that. Yeah. After
this year, it's you can have December off. Just take it easy. Get ready for the Dome. This was Will Ospreay's year, I thought. You can make different arguments, especially when you bring in, drawing capacity into the equation, which Ospreay was, to me, he was a big factor of the Super Juniors tournament this year. And I think what could be a real feather in his cap next year is his involvement on these US cards, because to me, he is someone that if he is headlining those US cards, they become much more priorities to watch than if it's just a rank and file show. Even with some of the Japanese top talent, I think Ospreay doing a singles match, that becomes a big deal.
Oh, definitely. I think he's going to factor in. I think a lot of their quote unquote foreign wrestlers are going to factor in a lot of these US cards. I think Juice Robinson and Lance Archer for sure. It's funny because I think if New Japan got to Jon Moxley earlier, they probably could have secured some US dates for this guy. But the thing with his contract with AEW obviously precludes him from doing anything involving New Japan in the States.
Your tag team of the year for 2019.
This was tough, John, but I'm going to have to go with the Violent Giants, Suwama, and Shuji Ishikawa from All Japan Pro Wrestling. It was either them or Axis, the team of Katsuhiko Nakajima and Go Shizaki and Pro Wrestling Noah. But I was looking at their matches, like all the matches I've seen of them, and I just felt that, Violent Giants had a much more diverse range of opponents and exciting matches, a little bit more than Axis. Axis kind of was stuck in this feud with like Kazuma Sakamoto and Takashi Sugiura like earlier in the year, and it was good, but a little stale for me. And then the thing about Axis is like they're very important to the financial success of Pro Wrestling Noah. I think they're legit draws, but I'm just looking at this as a purely like in-ring thing, and I'm gonna go with the Violent Giants.
No, great pick. They just won their second Real World Tag League tournament. Most popular wrestler of the year.
I gotta go with Tetsuya Naito, John. Like this guy just gets amazing responses. I think his continued push in the company stems from how much he resonates with a lot of the fans in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And like, he's a top merch seller. I don't know what to say. Like, I think, like they recognize this, and that's why they've, are going to put him to the top, in my opinion. But I mean, the way he's booked helps his popularity as well. I'm not saying it's just him organically. Like, as you well know, John, I was not a big fan of him before he became this Los Ingobernables character. But, I don't know anyone who gets the responses that he does, especially in New Japan. Like, I really feel like you can, not a single person is like more important than the brand itself, except for maybe Naito.
You know what he also had to overcome this year? And I think that it was the person most affected by his departure was Naito, and that was Kenny Omega. Because if you insert Kenny Omega into the Jay White role this year, and that's Naito, like everyone remembers the G1 loss, Omega running him down afterwards, and you knew like that was being done for Naito to ultimately avenge that loss, beating Kenny Omega in the G1 final, which I would have imagined would have been the final this year of Naito and Kenny Omega. I would have made that the final this past year, and setting up Naito going into the Tokyo Dome. And I think everything got readjusted. Kota Ibushi ends up in the role, beating Naito. But I think that if you have Kenny Omega in there, I think that's Naito's rival this year as opposed to Ibushi, and he kind of vanquishes the former champion, and I think would have had that much more momentum this year, where I think at times he did cool off this year.
Definitely. I think like, the stuff he did with, Ibushi as good as it was, also like one of those things that, you and I were a little turned off by some of the dangerous spots in the matches, but like he's kind of this up and down character, but at the same time, he's always going to be positioned at the top of the card on the big shows because that's how popular he is. And I'm telling you, like, if he wins the title on the 5th, John, like that Tokyo Dome's going to go crazy.
Oh, and if he loses, oh my God, man, WH is going to just, I don't know what will happen.
Listen, if it was against Jay White, that'd be one thing. But like, if it's against Okada, like, I'll be a little disappointed, but I'm not emotionally invested in Naito as a lot of people are. Like, I just think it's a good idea. I think it's the best idea to just pull the trigger on this dude, clear the blocks as far as the booking goes, and just get him in that position. So now you can focus on Sonata. You can focus on Ibushi. You can focus on Jay White more. You can focus on all these guys simmering underneath and just kind of elevate everyone. So like, elevate these guys, and then all the guys underneath them get elevated as well.
When WH gets upset about something, he is not the type to just yell and scream. He just will look over and just gives you a look, and it's fuck this company. That's when they have pissed you off. Where the match that's going to garner that reaction is the Jay White Kota Ibushi match, John, on the 5th. I could very well. I have a hard time imagining Jay White goes 0-2.
That's true too, but I can't imagine Kota Ibushi going 0-2 either.
Yeah, I find it intriguing because I think you can make arguments all over the place. Like, Jay White is maybe the consensus that, okay, there's no way this guy's leaving as double champion. And I don't believe that to be the case, but I mean, of the four, like, who has been Gedo's most closely handled project this year? It's Jay White.
Yeah, and you got a point there. The other thing is like, because he's Gedo's most, carefully handled project, that he's got a plan to, like, like, he doesn't need as much care as, like, maybe Ibushi does. Ibushi's kind of been, I don't know, a little lost. Outside of the G1, he's kind of not done anything significant, in my opinion.
He bashed Okada with a briefcase. That was pretty significant.
I mean, they just portray him as kind of this kind of goofy dude, like, and I don't think that's helpful for him. But
I like this style of booking, because I think where, everyone hates the notion of 50-50 booking, but then when people venture out of there and they're going to make someone really strong and therefore somebody has to lose, I'm not always an advocate. You got to protect everybody. Like, in order for wins to matter, the losses need to be significant too. And then they have to overcome that obstacle when you lose a big match and having to come back. And that's been a staple of Gedo's booking, is someone hitting rock bottom and then overcoming that and avenging their loss.
See, I can see Jay White eventually becoming a babyface, and that's what I'm actually hoping for, because I really enjoyed his babyface work, John. Like kind of abandon the Switchblade character for now and just be Jay White. So maybe he hits rock bottom. He gets kicked out of the Bullet Club. Maybe they'll finally dissolve that fucking gimmick. I hope that happens in 2020. But, like, I do think Ibushi has to get, like, a bigger push, early beginning of 2020.
Yeah. I think the time is now for Ibushi. Absolutely. Your MVP. So who was most important for their respective companies?
I'm going to go with Kento Miyahara, John, because, like, no one in New Japan is more important than the company. I feel that way about, like, Noah, like, as well as Kiyomiya has done as the GHC champion. I don't think he's that much of a difference maker, in my opinion. But All Japan Pro Wrestling without Kento Miyahara, I don't know if they exist anymore. I think he keeps the doors open in that place. I think the other thing about him is he is going out of his way to, like, make everyone, like, a bigger star. Every time he has a singles match, especially for the Triple Crown, anyone who has a match with him comes out of that match, like, with their stock raised just a little bit more. And I think that's deliberate on his part. I think he realizes that's his role, not just to, like, draw fans and be a popular wrestler, but to, like, kind of parlay the popularity and the cachet that he has in the eyes of the fans to do that with Jake Lee, with Naoya Nomura, with people like Zeus, and, like, anyone else that he might face. Like, John, he took Yoshitatsu to an amazing fucking match. I can't believe how much I like that match, and I'm not a Yoshitatsu fan, but he had an amazing Triple Crown, title match against Yoshi fucking Tatsu, of all people. And, like, how can, like, like, the business suffers a little recently with All Japan, but I do think, if they, clear some of the decks of their booking, the way they book some of their kind of mid-card and freshen things up, that, business will go back to being like what they were maybe about a year and a half ago.
I think Kento Miyahara had just a phenomenal year. I think in a year where there isn't a Will Ospreay, I think he could be the favorite to be Wrestler of the Year. Like, he had a tremendous year. It's just the number of people that are following All Japan is a smaller number.
Yeah, I do think, like, he works in any company that has a bit of a higher profile. He is going to be, like, blowing people away. Like, I can't wait for, like, some of, our friends and acquaintances who are going to be at the Cork and Hall show with us for All Japan. Like, I can't wait for them. I can't wait for you to see Kento Miyahara live, John. Like, that's a hell of an experience. Like, people talk about, like, Ray Phoenix, like, seeing him live versus seeing him on TV are completely different things. Like, it's much more impressive to see him live. You're going to feel the same way about Kento Miyahara.
I would be really curious for All Japan to come over during a Mania weekend and do a show, because I think All Japan would do tremendous here. I think they'd easily draw 4,000 to 5,000 people, I think, for an All Japan show on a big weekend, with this audience now.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Am I going too high?
I don't know. Like, I don't know what their penetration is in the West, though.
I think there would be such a novelty to seeing All Japan with a Triple Crown title match in the main event, that here's a product that everyone hears about, but no one gets to see on this part of the world, and to come over 4,000 to 5,000. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I think they do really well.
I think they should like strike up some kind of agreement with WXW in Germany and like say, okay, World Tag League, we're going to send some guys over there. 16 karat, we're going to send some guys over there. Cause like, obviously WWE doesn't care about All Japan. Like, you can send All Japan guys over there, WWE guys mixed in with the WXW guys, you know, that would be really interesting. I think that would raise their profile, like, or doing something with an established UK promotion. I don't want it to be Progress because I don't want them getting deeply in bed with the WWE. Like, WXW would be enough for me, but like, I don't know. They'd have to do something in conjunction with an established promotion in the West. And I don't know who that would be. You know, it can't be ROH because they, despite everything that's not happened, like, and has happened, like they're still affiliated with New Japan. And like, there's no one else really. Like maybe All Japan should get in bed with AEW, but I have my apprehensions about that. But you know, guess what, John?
That would be the company. Like when you're looking at like Impact kind of will work with anybody, but they've kind of got a bit of a relationship with Noah at the moment. So I don't know how that would work, but yeah, those are your options. AEW, MLW, like that's kind of your options. And if you're AEW, I do think it would behoove them to have a Japanese partner to be able to send talent that they can't use on TV to gain more experience, and vice versa, and get some fresh names over as well. That if New Japan, if that door is locked, if that is not going to be a relationship, then does AEW start to look elsewhere? And All Japan would be right at the top of my list there.
Yeah, it's either them or DDT, obviously, because of the pre-existing relationship.
Right. Yeah,
but
that would make sense too.
As much as I bang on Kenny Omega, John, I would love to see a match between Kenny Omega and Kento Miyahara. That would be fucking awesome.
What was your match of the year?
So I have a tie for match of the year, and they both involve Will Ospreay. So first match is against Shiko Takagi, June 5th, 2019 at the Best of the Super Juniors Finals at Sumo Hall. Just an amazing match that just blew me away when I saw it. Like, you know, as it was happening on TV, I didn't go to Sumo Hall that day, but I just, the sheer, like, physicality of this match, and these guys both had a grueling tournament, John. Like, so for them to pull this out and just set the world on fire with that match was just amazing. I had to pick that. And the other match that I had actually a far more, you know, deeper emotional connection was Will Ospreay versus Hiroshi Tanahashi, August 10th, 2019, their G1 Climax match, day 17 at Budokan Hall. This is probably my favorite Ospreay match of the whole tournament, and that's saying something considering like the amount of amazing matches he had in the G1. But I don't know, for some reason, this idea of like, you know, Tanahashi of putting over Ospreay and doing everything he could to make this guy a bigger star, it just filled me with so much like appreciation for not only for Ospreay and the effort he put in the match, but for Tanahashi as well. That this guy, despite being like beaten up and like older and maybe written off sometimes, he still got it, John. Like in the big picture, this guy fucking delivers. This, you know, like we need to put Ospreay over. No problem. I will do that. Even though I've like killed myself throughout this, you know, throughout the last 3 weeks in the G1 beforehand, I will still fucking kill it with Ospreay on this night.
Promotion of the year.
Wow, that's easy. New Japan Pro Wrestling. I like, there's no one that touches them, you know, financially or like, you know, profile wise in the country, or, you know, you could argue like they're the second biggest company in the world, like, you know, in terms of finances. I don't know if AEW has reached that level financially, but profile wise, maybe. But like worldwide, I still think New Japan Pro Wrestling is just, you know, just a shade below the WWE, you know, so it's definitely in Japan. They're the number one company.
You know, it'll be a very interesting company to watch is what are we talking about in regards to Stardom a year from now?
We'll see, John. I think it'll be, I think you're going to see the full effects. You're already seeing the effects of the relationship with Bushiroad, like in Stardom already, like kind of more behind the scenes. But I think we're going to get a glimpse of it at the Shinkiba First Ring show that we go to on the 3rd.
Right. Your show of the year.
My show of the year was this was an All Japan show, John. It was All Japan Pro Wrestling, March 19th, 2019. It was the Dream Power Series. It was day 6 of that tour at Korakuen Hall. This was, a fun show headlined by 3 amazing matches. The All Japan World Junior Heavyweight title, Koji Iwamoto, the champion, taking on Kotaro Suzuki, followed by World Tag Team title match, the Violent Giants challenging Strong BJ, Daisuke Sekimoto, and Yuji Okabayashi for the titles. And that was a fucking amazing match. Maybe my tag match of the year, John. And then the Triple Crown title match, Kento Miyahara taking on Naoya Nomura in like one of his best defenses of the year. And that's saying something because all of his defenses have been awesome this year. I like the variety of having an awesome junior match, an awesome tag title match, and an awesome Triple Crown title match. Like, so for me, that's it. And All Japan is just something that I just love watching. I can't explain why, John. It's not like top to bottom, it's a great company. It's not, but like, I really like the top end of the company, and I have such like a deep appreciation of like these people like Ishikawa and Suwama and Nomura and people like Jake Lee and Yuma Aoyagi as well. Like, I really feel they're on the cusp of something with these guys, and I just absolutely loved this show. So that was it. My runner-up, though, I gotta say, I have a runner-up. It was the Best of the Super Juniors, Day 8, May 23rd, 2019 at Korakuen Hall, just because the sheer amount of awesome singles matches that were on this show, John. Like, this was my favorite night of the Best of the Super Juniors tour.
All great choices, and there were some tremendous shows this past year. The final 2, these were, at my request, the big awards. Your best and worst dressed of 2019.
Which one should I do first, John?
Let's do best.
Best dress, Kazuchika Okada, John, for the sheer fact that he went back to the shorts at Wrestle Kingdom, and when he took off that ring skirt, and you thought it was the long boys, the big bell-bottom long boys that he was wearing, when he took those off and he's revealing shorts, John, I don't think I've ever experienced like a pop for someone taking off their pants more than that. It was one of the biggest pops of the night, and he still does it. It still gets a great reaction. Kazuchika Okada, back in the shorts, best dressed of 2019.
Yeah, Angel Garza in NXT can only wish he can get a pop like that at the Tokyo.
Yeah, with like more than, I don't know, 30,000 people?
Yep.
Was that
it's like 38. Yeah, it was an enormous moment. My favorite, the worst dressed, who looked like garbage.
Oh my God. So I'm going to go to Dragon Gate Pro Wrestling for this. There's a man in Dragon Gate Pro Wrestling. He's in the red faction that Pac was involved in. His name is Big R Shimizu, John. He looks like fucking sleazy fucking garbage. He wears a singlet top. He wears these bell-bottom leather pants. What the fuck, John? Who the fuck wears leather pants are bad enough? Bell bottoms are bad enough. He's wearing both, and a fucking singlet top, and it's all red. Red is not this man's color, John. And he's got a bleach blonde like dye job. He looks like one of these sleazy fucks that tries to get into the hostess bars in Roppongi or something. We're not gonna experience any of that. Don't worry. I'm taking you away from those things during your stay in Tokyo. We will not see people like Big R Shimizu in real life, hopefully. But this man looks like shit. And it's a shame because I was really into like his initial hero run, but now I can't watch this man. If I see him on my TV screen, I'm like, fast forward. I can't look at these bell bottoms. I do have an American candidate though as well, John, just to be fair. The worst dressed person in American wrestling, mainstream, high profile American wrestling, is Baron fucking Corbin. Like,
wow.
When he was the fucking waiter, that was bad enough. The Mater D at fucking Olive Garden, bad enough. Now he's like doing this fucking Conan cosplay thing since he became the king of the ring. That crown, honestly, John, like, I don't know anyone who's looked as stupid as Baron Corbin with that fucking crown and that stupid cape. Like, I actively, like, I'm sure he's a nice guy in real life. This character, I actively hate this character whenever he like pollutes my TV screen. Like, that's fucking costume is terrible.
Oh man, you did not disappoint there. I was dying during that. That was phenomenal, WH. This is the WH Park Award. Only you could break down in such vivid detail Big R Shimizu and King Corbin.
Just shuddering at thinking about that. They both look like shit. Anyways, let's continue.
Oh, those are the topics.
Oh, we ended on a high note then, John.
Oh, there's no topping that. That's like my concern about the Liger retirement being the first match. What are you going to do after that? You close with that. So
yeah, we might as well just leave the Tokyo Dome and beat the crowd and just go to Taco Bell like in the Tokyo Dome City.
Well, that will be our next interaction. WH, it will be together. So this closes out the year for Post ProRes. WH, I thank you as always for joining me each month. It's always great to chat with you. Always passing me along all the recommendations of stuff to check out. I always enjoy doing this show with you, and it's going to be a ton of fun when we're over in Japan and get to do a bunch of shows together. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to like a 2020 that's maybe as good or as better as 2019. I think we had a nice run of shows this year, and then continue that going into the new year, John.
We look forward to it. So, you can give him a follow, everybody. WH Park 9. That is the number 9. And we will be back, coming up the first week of January. WH will be tagging along with Wei and I for a bunch of the shows. We'll be going to many, and wherever WH has some free time, he will, pop on with us. I don't want to overwork you, WH. You've already done so much.
Well, we should talk about the brunch, John, that before the January 4th Tokyo Dome show, we're going to have, Post Wrestling Super J-Cast, collaboration. We're going to have a gathering, a brunch at TGI Fridays, next to Corkin Hall. Come down. It starts at 11:30. The doors open at 11:30. Try to be there a little bit before then. I'd recommend around 11 a.m. Just wait in line. First come, first serve for the tables. And yeah, it's pay each person, each table pays for themselves. So please make sure whatever table you're at, like, don't make it difficult for whoever's in charge of like taking care of the bill. And that's it. But yeah, come meet me, come meet John, Wei. A bunch of people are coming from the Post Wrestling family, and as well from the Super J-Cast, Joel and Damon. So yeah, that's a great time to talk with us about anything wrestling or how your vacation's been going in Japan so far. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. That's going to be a ton of fun on the 4th. So, yes, we will look forward to meeting many of you when we're over there in Tokyo. And yes, all topics welcome that we can discuss, including Big R Shimizu.
That's right. And King fucking Corbin.
Of course. That will be it for us. We are signing off. Thank you to all of you for listening throughout the entire year, and we look forward to chatting with you in 2020.